Namaste. Welcome to our virtual class conducted by N. Kasky. I'm your science teacher. I'm going to take the lesson of class 8 on the topics life cycle of flowering plants. We have lots of plants around us, around our house, gardens, and forest. Those plants which bears of flowers are called flowering plants. The plants which bear flowers are called flowering plants. They are reproduced from seeds. They have vegetative organs and reproductive organs. Vegetative organs are root, stems, and leaves. Reproductive organs is flower. So flower is the reproductive parts of the plants. The reproductive organs of the plants are flowers. The colored flowers is grown on a stalk called pedicels. When you pick up flowers from your garden, that is called what? Stalk. Stalk is called what? Pedicel. The upper disc shaped end of the pedicel is called thalamus. The upper parts of the pedicels, that is called thalamus, calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium are the main floral parts of the flowers. These floral parts are arranged on thalamus. The first part, calyx. The outermost parts of the flower is called calyx. This is calyx. The calyx, a single parts of calyx is called sepal. It consists of green sepals. The sepals may be fused or free. It protects a bud. Second part is corolla. The second oriole of the flower is called corolla. It consists of colored petals. The individual parts of the corolla is called petals. These are petals. These petals may be free or fused. It attracts insects for pollination. Since the petals are colorful, it attracts insects and the insects helps in the pollination. Androecium, the third orioles of the flower, is male reproductive part which is called androecium. It consists of stamens. Stamens are free or fused together. A stamens has long, slender filament and back-like anther. Anther contains pollen grains which will be developed into male gametes. This is the structural stamens. The long cylinder part is called filament, and upper back-like structure is called anther. Anther contains pollen grains. These are the male gametes of the flowers. Gynoecium, the female reproductive parts. The innermost oriole of the flower is female reproductive part, which is known as gynoecium or pistil. It consists of carpels. A carpels has ovary, style, and stigma. The basal swollen parts of the carpel is called ovary. The ovary contains ovules which will be developed into female gametes. The ovary and sticky stigma are connected by a thin filament called style. It is a structure of carpels. It is a thalamus. These swollen parts of carpels at the base is called ovary. Ovary contains ovules. These ovules are female reproductive gametes. And the upper parts of carpel is sticky, stigma, or it is feathery, so that what happens? Pollen grains from anther are attached. This stigma and ovary is connected by a thin filament. This filament is called style. Pollination. The process of transferring of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of same or different flower is called pollination. Pollen grains is a male gamete, and these male gametes travels from one flowers or from another flowers to the stigma of same or other plant. That process is called pollination. There are two types of pollination: self-pollination and cross-pollination. The types of flowers: unisexual flowers, those flowers which has only one sex organs, they are called what? Unisexual flowers. But in some flowers, or most of the flowers have both male and female sex organs, they are called bisexual flowers. In bisexual flowers, both male and female reproductive organs are present. In pollination, if it is a cross-pollination, it is done by itself and it doesn't need any agent. But in cross-pollination, it may need water, insects, animals, wind, etc. to transfer the anther from one flower to the another flower. These are called pollinating agent. The difference between self-pollination and cross-pollination. Self-pollination, pollen grains transfer from the anther to the stigma of the same flower. In self-pollination, the anthers are travel from within the same flowers, from anther to the stigma. Cross-pollination, the pollen grains transfer from the anther to the stigma of the different flowers. It occurs in bisexual flowers. Self-pollination occurs in bisexual flowers. That means both type of male and female parts should be in the same flowers. Cross-pollination occurs in unisexual or bisexual flower. So for cross-pollination, either it have only male or female organs, it occurs because it takes between two different flowers. It doesn't need any agent. In self-pollination occurs within the same flowers, so it doesn't need any agent. But cross-pollination occurs between two flowers, so to carry the pollen grains from one flower to another flower, it needs agents like insect, animal, wind, water, etc. It occurs in closed flower. Self-pollination occurs in the closed flower, but cross-pollination occurs in open flowers because the pollen grains should come from the another plants, so the flowers should be opened. Fertilization. The fusion of male and female gametes to form a zygote is called fertilization. Pollen grains from another flower or same anther of the same flowers transfer, that is called pollination. After pollination, these pollen grains make a pathway towards the ovary, that is called pollen tubes. It goes on penetrating, and through the micropiles it enters into the ovules. So it makes a pollen tubes itself by the pollen grains. Pollen tubes, the pipe-like structure which carries male gametes, are called pollen tubes. Pollen grains, when attached on the stigma, these pollen grains find a way towards the ovules. That tubes is called what? Pollen tubes. The protecting covering of the ovules are called integuments. The basal parts of the carpels is called ovary, and it is protected by the integuments. The integuments develop into seed coats. When the seeds is developed, these integuments are developed into the seed coats. The opening of the pollen tube at the ovule is called micropyle. So the opening of the ovule, that is called micropyle. Here is the opening of ovule, and this is called micropyle. These pollen tubes travels through the style and reach to the basal parts of the ovary and enter inside the ovules, and this opening is called what? Micropyle. Zygote, a new structure which is developed by the fusion of male and female gamete, is called zygote. The zygote or fertilized ovum develops into the embryo. After the fusion, the fertilized ovum or zygote that develops into the embryo, and ovules develops into seed, and ovary develops into a fruit. The whole ovary develops into the fruit, and the ovules develop into the seed, and integument develop into the seed coats. Seed. The fertilized ovule is developed into the seed after fertilization. After fertilization, the fertilized ovule or egg that develop into the seed, and embryo has a radicle, the future roots, and plumule, the future shoot. So inside the seed, the zygote develop into the embryo, and embryo has two parts. One is a radicle that becomes a root, and another part is called plumule that becomes shoot. There are two types of seed: monocotyledonous seeds and dicotyledonous seeds. The differences between monocotyledon seeds and dicotyledon seeds are as follows. Monocotyledon seeds has only single cotyledons, has one cotyledon one. Dicotyledon seeds has two cotyledon. This is a maize seeds. It has only one cotyledon. We cannot break down it, but this is a gram seeds. We can break the gram seeds into two halves, and it has two cotyledons. It has an endosperm. The whole parts of maize seeds or rice seeds that we use to eat, that is a endosperm. It has an endosperm. It has no endosperm. Seed coat is fused with the ovary walls. The seed coat, it is fused with the ovary wall here, but seed coats and ovary walls are separated. The seed coat, outside seed coats and ovary wall is separated in dicotyledonous seed. Food is stored in endosperm. This endosperm stores the foods. Food is stored in the cotyledons. In these cotyledons, the foods are stored. Dispersal of seeds. Seeds are developed in the plants, and from the mother plants, they are carried from one place to another, and that phenomena is known as what? Dispersal of seed. The process of scattering of seeds far from the mother plant is called dispersal of seed. The main methods of dispersal of seeds are given below. One, by ear, wind dispersals. The seeds having wings of feathery and hairy structures are flown by wind. Example, maple seeds, dandelion seeds, they have a parachute-like structure and they are flown by winds from one place to the another. This is the dandelion plant with its seeds are flown in the air. By water, the seeds of plants that grows at shores and banks of rivers are carried far away from mother plants by water. The seeds of betel nuts, coconut, lotus, water lily, etc. are dispersed by the water. So the plants that is found in the water plants, their seeds are carried by water from one place to another, and new plants are grown when they get favorable conditions. This is a coconut plant. This coconut plant was grown in other parts of the seashore, and it was brought here by the water. Next, by animals. Plants having hooks in their shoots are attached to the plant body with the power of the animals as they passes by the plants. So those plant seeds which have a hook-like structure, they attach with the parts of the animal when they passes through the plants, and these seeds will be fall at somewhere and will germinate into the new plants. Many plants produce fruits which are eaten by the animals and birds. The small hard seeds is hidden inside the fruit and passes out in the droppings of the animals without digestion and germinate at a favorable condition. Some animals, birds, eat the nuts or fruits of the plants, and the seeds inside the fruit is undigested, and when they comes out with their droppings, and that seeds germinate into the new plant when they receive favorable conditions of good temperatures, suitable temperature, soil, water, etc. Some seeds of the plants are dispersed in this way. By fruits itself, by explosion of action of the fruits, some plants distribute their seeds by burst forcefully so that they fall well away from their parent plant. This is an explosive dispersal of seeds. An example of this is plants which belongs to the pea plants family. The pea seeds are scatters when the fruits or part of the pea plants will be explodes violently. They produce seeds pods which dry in the sun and explodes, scattering their seeds. Here the seeds is dispersed after the explosion of the pods. Germination. The process of growing embryo of seed into new baby plants or seedling is called germination. Germination, the process of growing embryo of a seed into a new seedling is called germination. When a seed gets suitable temperature, water, and air, the embryo grows into a baby plant. A radicle comes out at first and the plumule grows. The radicle grows into the roots and the plumule grows into the seed. When the seed gets favorable conditions, a baby plant grows from the seeds. The process is known as germination. These are the seeds. When the seeds get favorable conditions, small protopes comes up, hypocotyls and radicals. The radicals is a future roots. It goes downwards to the earth inside the soil, but hypocotyls comes upwards from the soil, and that is a plumule, and that plumule will develop into the shoot systems. So when the seeds goes on developing of baby plants, the cotyledons also comes out of the soils, and from that cotyledons leaves structure of shoot systems appears. In this way, seedlings occurs or germinations occurs in the plants. Thank you very much. This was for our living beings or life cycle of the plants.